Hi, we're A+ Water, and today we're going to show you how to install the DuraWater Fleck 5600 SXT air injection iron eater whole house filter. For consistency's sake, we will be following along with our installation manual that is included with the purchase of your new DuraWater iron eater. Before beginning, be sure you have all necessary parts and tools for installation. Included with your new system is a mineral tank loaded up to 2 cubic feet of filter media, a Fleck 5600 SXT air injection control head, bypass valve and yoke, a drain barb, and upper deflector. There are some additional parts and tools that are not included with the system. These include 1/2-inch inner diameter drain tubing, a flathead screwdriver or 1/4-inch nut driver, pliers, channel locks or a wrench, tubing cutters, lubricant, Teflon tape, and a hose clamp to secure your drain line. While flexible installation hoses are not required, we do recommend them as they do make plumbing in your system a lot easier. You can find these online or at your local hardware store. So, without further ado, let's get started. For the first step, we need to verify that the riser tube is sitting about flush with the top of the mineral tank. The riser tube should be at maximum a 1/2 inch above the white tank collar opening. Once you verify that the position of your riser tube is okay, you can move on to prepping and installing the control valve. We will start by lubricating the 2 O-rings found on the underside of the valve. Silicone lubricant works best, but cooking oil makes a good substitute. Do not use petroleum-based lubricant. Apply a small amount of lubricant to the tip of your finger and lubricate the larger O-ring as you see here, and also the small pilot O-ring that is found just inside the smaller opening here. You will not see this O-ring as it is hidden, but you will be able to feel it with your finger. Next, locate your upper deflector and install it. Slide the upper deflector onto the riser tube about 4 inches down. The domed part of the deflector should be facing upwards. Once the control valve O-rings have been lubricated and the deflector has been installed, it is time to install the control valve onto the mineral tank. Screw the control valve onto the mineral tank, being sure that the riser tube seats snugly into the smaller pilot O-ring inside of the control valve. Do not use any sort of plumber's tape or thread locker on the control valve threads. Tighten the valve until it is snug against the tank's collar. Do not over-tighten this control valve as you may damage the tank or the control valve itself. After your control valve has been tightened down to the tank, double check to make sure that the valve meets the tank evenly all around the tank collar. Our next step is going to be verifying the direction of the inlet check valve. Looking at the back of the control valve, we need to make sure that the inlet check valve is installed on the inlet side and also that it is facing the correct direction. The inlet side, as you are facing the back of the control valve, is on the left side. Once you have verified that the check valve is on the inlet side, we need to make sure that it is facing the correct direction. You should be able to press on the center of the check valve and feel it depress into the valve. If you cannot press into the check valve, it is backwards. Just to reiterate, the check valve should be on the inlet side of the control valve, the left side as you are facing the back of the valve, and you should be able to press into the check valve, feeling the check valve depress into the control valve when you press on it. If you have any questions at all about this step, please give us a call. A quick phone call can save you hours of troubleshooting at home. Once you have verified the check valve position, it is time to attach the yoke to the plastic bypass valve. If you have a stainless steel bypass valve, skip this step. To attach the yoke to the plastic bypass valve, lubricate the O-rings found on the male coupling points on the bypass. Then, loosen the silver screws and move the clips to give yourself some clearance to attach the yoke to the bypass. Push them together, making sure you feel the O-rings seat. Then, tighten the screws until they are snug and the silver bracket is flush and steady in place. Be extremely careful to not over-tighten these screws as you will damage the bypass. The clips should not wiggle at all when you try to move them. Once the yoke is on the bypass, you can attach the complete bypass and yoke assembly to the control valve using the same silver brackets and screws. Similar to the last step, we need to lubricate the O-rings found on the couplers on the back of the control valve. Next, we need to loosen the screws and move the clips on the couplers to allow the bypass to securely and snugly attach to the couplers. Once the bypass assembly is pushed on, place the clips over the bypass and tighten the screws. Again, be sure to not over-tighten these screws as you will cause damage to the control valve. It is important to note that there is some up and down movement allowed with these connections on the back of the control valve. This is completely normal. The clips simply hold the connection fittings together, and the screws only need to be tightened enough to keep the clips in place. Further tightening will not stop or prevent leaks, and tightening too much may cause damage to the system. The system is now pretty much fully assembled. We can now move on to plumbing the system in. Remember that all water filtration systems must always be plumbed in after the well pressure tank if applicable. The first step of plumbing in your system is to shut off the main water supply for the home. Find the main water shutoff and turn it off. We then recommend opening a faucet somewhere in the home to remove all water pressure from the lines. Next, make sure the system is in the bypass position. For the plastic bypass, this means that the knob should be in one horizontal line going east to west as shown. For the stainless steel bypass, turn your lever to the bypass position as shown. Be sure to leave the system in the bypass position until the startup procedure. Now, it is time to connect the system to the plumbing. There are many different ways to plumb in these systems, so everyone's situation will look different. You can hard pipe the system in or use a more do-it-yourself friendly installation hose approach. Whatever approach you use, just be sure that you are following all local plumbing guidelines and codes. If you are uncomfortable plumbing in the system yourself, please contact a licensed plumber to ensure the job is done correctly and safely. The most important thing to note in this step, whether you did the plumbing yourself or not, is to make sure that the inlet and the outlet of the system are plumbed correctly. As you are facing the front of the system, the water should be coming from your well into the system on the right-hand side of the valve and out to the home on the left-hand side, as you see depicted by the arrows on the bypass. It is important to note that not all brands of systems plumb in the same direction, so even if you are replacing an existing system, we recommend double-checking that the inlet and outlet are on the correct sides. Once you are sure that the system is plumbed correctly and is in the bypass position, it is time to turn the main water supply back onto the home. Slowly open the main water supply over the course of 5 to 10 seconds to gradually introduce water pressure to your new plumbing connections. Once fully open, you can check all connections for leaks. Now we can move on to attaching the drain barb. Wrap the threads of the drain barb with 4 to 5 wraps of Teflon tape and then twist the drain barb into the housing. Tighten only until snug. Do not over-tighten this, as this housing around the drain barb can crack if over-tightened. It is important to note that the drain barb will not be threaded all the way into the housing. As long as it is snug and secure, you will not have any leaks. There is no reason to crank down on this connection. Next, secure your drain line tubing to the system. Slide a hose clamp onto the end of your 1/2-inch inner diameter drain tubing, and then connect the tubing to the drain barb by wiggling it onto the barb, making sure the tubing is flush with the base of the barb. Tighten the hose clamp on the drain line as close to the base of the barb as possible until snug. Next, it is time to find a drain location for your system. This is going to be different for everybody. It is impossible for us to cover every possible draining solution. Always be sure to follow all local plumbing codes and guidelines. The drain line will be under pressure during a regeneration, so it can't be run vertically and horizontally. Always make sure that there is an air gap of at least 3 inches between the end of the drain line and any wastewater or surface in the drain. Some common drain solutions for the system include a washing machine drain standpipe, a floor drain, a utility tub, or a P-trap. Never tie multiple systems into the same drain line. Multiple systems can share a drain point, but not the same drain line. Never use any additional fittings on the drain line, such as check valves, as this can prevent the system from backwashing properly and can cause premature failure of your system. Be sure to secure the drain line at the drain point to prevent messes. The drain line will move around under pressure and can potentially remove itself from the drain point if not properly secured. Next, we can move on to programming the control valve for your system. Plug the unit into the electrical outlet and the screen should power on. We have a more in-depth video that we'll link below that goes more in-depth into the programming of the air injection unit. The first and most important step to getting the full list of settings to appear on your valve is to set the time of day to 12:01 p.m. and it needs to be that time specifically, like a secret code, to enter the programming. Hold either the up arrow or the down arrow key on the valve and that will start adjusting the time of day. Move the time to 12:01 p.m., making sure that you see a PM in the top right hand corner of the screen, and then push the cycle button to lock in the selected time. You could then hold both the up and the down arrow buttons together at the same time until you enter the programming mode. The first setting that you should encounter is DFGAL. The first setting that we'll encounter that needs changing is the DO setting. It comes pre-programmed at 3, meaning the system will regenerate every 3 days, but we recommend setting this to 1 for the best performance and longevity. The next setting that we'll need to pay attention to is the RT or regeneration time setting. This comes pre-programmed at 2 o'clock in the morning. If you have a water softener or other piece of water treatment equipment that backwashes, it may also be programmed to regenerate at 2 a.m. Be mindful of this and adjust this to at least 2 hours apart if applicable. For example, if you have a water softener that regenerates at 2 o'clock in the morning, you would want to set this air injection filter to regenerate at 4 o'clock in the morning, 2 hours apart. The next setting we'll encounter that needs adjusting will be the BW or backwash setting. We recommend increasing this to 15 minutes instead of the default 10 minutes. This gives the unit a better cleaning when it backwashes. The next setting that we will adjust will be the RR setting. When you encounter this setting, it may say off on the screen instead of a numerical value. Use the up arrow button to increase this so that it says 1. We want a 1-minute rapid rinse for this system. The very next setting will be the BF setting. We want to turn this setting off as this does not use any brine fill function. So use the down arrow button to lower this value past 0. The next setting you should encounter should say off. You can then advance to end the programming. Once you have finished the programming, be sure to set the time of day on the valve to the correct time of day in your area. Use the up or the down arrow key and hold it down, and that will start adjusting the time in that direction. Once you see your correct time of day on the screen, push the far left cycle button, and that will lock in your selection, saving it. With your valve all programmed and set up, we are almost there. The next thing on our list is going to be the pre-startup checklist. The first step is to make sure that your control valve is securely attached to your mineral tank, plugged in, and programmed. Second step is going to make sure your bypass valve is attached and is in the closed/bypass position. Third step is to make sure that your drain line is secured at the valve and the drain location. Fourth step is while facing the digital display of the control valve, the inlet for the system comes in on the right-hand side and the outlet comes out on the left to the home. Once all criteria of the pre-startup checklist have been met, we can move on to begin the startup procedure, which is as follows. The first step is to slowly open the inlet side of the bypass valve over the course of 5 to 10 seconds to gradually introduce water pressure to the system. If you have a stainless steel bypass, just slowly turn the single lever over the course of 5 to 10 seconds until the valve is completely open. You will hear the tank start filling up with water. Once you hear the tank stop filling, close the inlet side of the bypass so that both valves are in the closed position once again. With both sides of the bypass closed, leave the system alone for 24 hours. This time will allow the media enough time to absorb some water, ensuring that no media gets into the valve or the home during the first regeneration. Skipping this step can lead to damage to not only the system, but the plumbing and fixtures all throughout the home. Do not skip this step. After 24 hours has passed, open the inlet side of the bypass valve only. Fully open for the stainless steel bypass. Press and hold the cycle button on the control valve until you see BW appear on the screen. This is how you start a manual regeneration. Allow the air injection filter to complete a full regeneration cycle, which will take about an hour. If you have a plastic bypass, you will not have water to your home during this initial regeneration since the outlet of the bypass is closed. After the regeneration is complete, open the outlet side of the bypass. After completing the startup procedure and your unit has finished its first regeneration, Your system should be providing you and your home with iron and smell-free water. The cold water should be treated immediately after flushing out your pipes, should only take a couple of minutes. The hot water may take a day or two to completely clear up, as it has to get all the untreated water out of the water heater tank. If you have a tankless instant hot water heater, the hot water should be treated after a few minutes of flushing out the pipes, just like the cold water. And that concludes our Fleck 5600 SXT air injection iron eater filter installation. We suggest checking out the recommended maintenance section in the back of our installation booklet. This includes QR codes to our maintenance videos for the injector and drain line flow control assemblies. We hope you enjoy your new system, and remember, as always, if you have any questions, please give us a call at our toll-free number below. We're in the office Monday through Friday, 9 to 4 Central Time. Have a great day.